Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we're back here in the Hendrickson Library at the Center for the Preservation of Western Civilization at ITR World Headquarters in Central Iowa. We have the John Hendrickson and myself today here again, ready to thrill and excite you on another fun-filled, action-packed episode of the Gold Standard in Iowa Conservative Entertainment. This one's going to be a banger, as they say sometimes, John.
That's right, yeah.
So I got my Dr. Pepper Zero, even though Mark still hasn't brought in the promised supplies.
Yes, yeah.
Our friend Mark Carroll. And you, so I got a few things on the soundboard here, John. I wish we could play songs. Like, they're copyrighted, and so I'm always reluctant to. But I want to do the Red Solo Cup song right now. So John Hendrickson, proceed to party.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. You threw down a marker today when you rolled in with the Red Solo Cup. So none of this professorial, nice, calm explanation things. Proceed to party. The folks are counting on you.
Yeah. And it looks like it is cream soda in here, even though it's...
The folks don't want to hear about your cream soda.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to it because I got something that I want to talk about that I'm excited to talk about. And so we're just going to get right to it. I guess housekeeping before we go that far, though, just a reminder that we really need you to subscribe, share the episode. I've heard from a lot of folks lately that love the podcast. They're also frustrated that we don't get behind the microphone more often than we do. I usually blame you, that John's just busy and he can't do it. And so that's usually my go-to excuse. But anyway, we're here, so you're just going to have to enjoy it here. So like, subscribe, share, tell your friends all those good things. We are on video if you watch us on audio. If you're on video, usually we're on audio, so you can take us in the car. Whatever you need to do, we're where you watch or listen to podcasts. Okay, big day yesterday for your friends at Iowans for Tax Relief. We launched a campaign yesterday. And the campaign, as we have sort of teased out here on the show, John, is a campaign to encourage Iowans to vote and vote yes on a constitutional amendment, which will be on the ballot for Iowans to vote on. And that'll be on this fall's ballot along with everything else, governor, Senate, Congress, all that stuff. At the bottom of your ballot on page 2 is going to be this question. Do you think it should be harder for politicians to raise your taxes? Did I nail that?
Yes, yeah. Yep,
okay, good.
Yep.
So we launched this campaign. We're going to do it. So I'm giving you an opportunity to get in at the ground floor, John. Would you like to be an early endorser of the campaign?
Yes, yeah. In fact, I filled out my pledge card already.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
So that's a great lead right there, John.
Yeah.
Tell us where you filled out the pledge card at.
Because I'm absent.
Proceed to party. Let's go.
Yes, because I'm absent-minded, I cannot remember the website.
The website
so I'm sorry.
for the campaign, John. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Let me get to that. MakeTaxHikesHarder.com. Easy for me to say. I was joking about an old Saturday Night Live episode for Dylan Edwards Investments in the back in the 1990s. If anyone understands Dylan Edwards Investments, you win trivia this week. I cruised right past your trivia, John. If you can tell any of us the URL for Dylan Edwards Investments, I bet you don't know it.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
All right. So anyway, MakeTaxHikesHarder.com. If you don't want to type that in, go to taxrelief.org, click the banner, it'll take you right there. Okay. So anyway, on MakeTaxHikesHarder.com. You like how I'm doing this? I'm trained to keep saying the website over and over. Then what did you do?
I read about the amendment, then I entered my name and email to sign up for my support for it. So it has a great summary of explaining what the amendment is. And
so one of the things as we add content, right now it's really just a quick blurb of what it does, some cool graphics, and of things in the news. We'll add some more things to that going forward. I'm not going to pretend that is completely filled out, but maybe we should just offer right there, front and center, the John Hendrickson endorsement.
Yes,
because you have now endorsed this.
Yep.
Anyway, so we do that. Okay. I want to take. So we've talked about the campaign. We're going to come back to the campaign, but I want to give you an opportunity. What is this amendment? Where did it come from? What does it do?
Yeah, this amendment simply states that it would take a 2/3 vote of both houses of the legislature in order to increase the income tax, and so this is what we'd call a taxpayer protection, it's not a. This is something that's not new. There's 16 states that have this, and they're the diversity among those states is pretty astonishing. So you have states that are, progressive blue states that have a supermajority requirement, and you have independent states or purple states, and then you have red states that have this as well. So it's not a new idea. It's been around for some time, and it's actually a good taxpayer protection because there's a lot of spending that is protected in many different ways. This actually puts the protection on the taxpayer, and it forces the legislature not just to do. Sometimes it's always easier to turn to a last resort of increasing taxes. And we're seeing this actually in real time in a number of states. And so one quick example, which I think is worth sharing, is the state of Washington. The people in the state of Washington have passed a similar amendment several times, only to see it either ignored by their legislature or struck down by the courts there. And what happened is this year, in order to have additional spending in their state as well as to address a budget deficit, Washington State, which was a no income tax state, now went to a income tax as a result. And so they have sort of disregarded what their taxpayers have wanted over and over again by supporting a similar amendment.
I don't want to try and guess what future legislatures or courts may or may not do in Iowa, but the way this is worded, plus the way our system works, it'd be pretty hard for this legislature to just completely disregard that. Other states, it may be easier to go around some of these things.
And the language is always in the details.
Right. Yeah. So we feel really good about this. You mentioned something too, John, that this isn't new. It's not new to this organization either. And I want to point out that this is something that this organization has worked on for 40 years.
Yes.
It was very important to our founder, Dave Stanley, the idea of constitutional protections for. So look, I'm going to stop. I want to tell you what just happened. I just don't have it set up right now. We used to have, you remember we used to have it set up and I could take phone calls on the air?
Yes, yeah.
So, and we did that. You remember once we got a phone call from, at the time, Senate Majority Leader Jack Whitmer.
Yes, we did.
Straight into the podcast.
Yeah.
That was one of our favorite listeners, Representative Bill Gustoff.
Oh, wow.
That just buzzed in, but he's going to have to go to voicemail because we're busy. Sorry, Bill. Call you back later. Anyway, we got to get that back. I got to figure it out. I don't think we've done that since we were back at the old studio.
Yeah.
I don't know, what were we talking about? Oh, just that this isn't new to the organizations. And a similar version, this was actually on the ballot back in 1999 and narrowly failed. Now, it was a different time in Iowa politics. In a lot of different, it was held in the summer, so it wasn't on the general election. It was an off year. A lot of differences between that and this. But I think this now is something that isn't just important to Iowans for tax relief. It clearly was important to this legislature. 2 consecutive General Assemblies have voted for it. And at least based on the data that we have, it's important to Iowans. Iowans want this protection as well. So that's it. I do want to talk a little bit. Now let's stay on with what this does. It's important to note that this does not make raising income taxes impossible. It just makes it harder, which it should be hard to raise taxes. Right now, the simple majority, but also it's politically risky to raise taxes. But this would just make it even harder and force them to find, if they have to go to that last resort, they better have pretty broad consensus of that in order to go down that route. And whenever I'm talking, whether it's to legislators, policymakers, folks around the state of Iowa, is that, talking about, the budget, what things look like in the future, the number one answer to all of that is, yes, they still get to control spending too. So before we even have any conversation about taxes to fill up the budget or grow government, let's have the conversation about spending first. So I think that not only does it make it harder to raise taxes, I think it also flips the conversation even more so into, let's talk about spending first. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
good.
This goes right back to it, yeah.
Good. You're being an excellent co-host on this.
Yeah.
Just keep agreeing
Yep.
with me.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So the campaign. So when we polled this last ITR Foundation poll, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the number of people that supported, we tested the idea, right? Simplified
Yes, yeah.
version of language, tested well over 70% of Iowans agreed with this, and over half of Democrats. So why do I keep repeating that? Because the idea that Iowans want protection from politicians raising their taxes. They just do. And so we are going to keep that in mind when we run this campaign. So as I talked about in the press conference that we held yesterday, this is an awareness campaign, and there's two things that we want people to be aware of. And so I want to really hammer this. There's two things that Iowans need to be aware of going into November. The first one is that this is on the ballot. If you're going in there expecting to vote for governor and Senate and then walk out the door, you won't find it. You need to know it's there. You need to go all the way down to the bottom. Over there where you find judicial retention, soil and water conservation, township trustees, all that stuff. At the end is Amendment 1, which asks this question. There was going to be a wall of text there. And so the second thing that Iowans need to be aware of is that wall of text. What does it mean? And it means that if you vote yes on this, you will be protected by needing to have 2/3 majority raise your taxes, not a simple majority. So if you want more protection, you vote yes. And so we're going to be encouraging people to vote yes. Did I stick that one as well?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And just, I have the numbers here from the poll. So 74% support. And breaking that down, that's 72% of independents and 60% of Democrats polled in favor. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah. I think it's an important thing. So we've said all the things here, right? Please, Iowans, understand that this is on the ballot and that we need to vote yes. And you need to also help us get the message out. Go on our website, go on our socials, find the information, fill out the card, and tell your friends and neighbors about this. Help us raise awareness that we need these protections and where to find them. Is that all fair?
It is, yep.
Good. Not the last time I'm going to bring this up on
No.
this podcast. I promise you that, John. Okay. Anything else on the amendment before we move on?
No, it's good policy, and there's just a lot. There's a lot to it that we'll hopefully have out in
Maybe
additional writings and stuff. So
I think I mentioned this in one of the questions in the press conference yesterday, is that we have made such tremendous progress over the last 10 years on income taxes in this state. Over 3 or 4 major income tax bills to get us down from having one of the worst tax regimes in the country to really one of the better ones. And this will help us even further cement that legacy, cement the future of what that amendment can mean, not just for individual taxpayers, but for the broader state of Iowa and what we can achieve. So, yeah, it is the culmination of a lot of work on tax policy. And yes, let's keep moving forward.
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
good. All right, I got to talk about this because it's an issue I care about, John. So we're gonna transition. I'm gonna read from a Radio Iowa story, but this was all over the media, national media. But did you see this in New Jersey? They mistakenly added over 6,000 non-citizens to the voter rolls, and 400 of them voted in 2023 and 2024. I was told voter fraud, voter malfeasance, voter whatever never happens. I'm confused. I have been told by progressives over and over, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I've got an Iowa article is because Governor Reynolds was asked about it in a press conference yesterday. In that press conference, she did indicate support for the 2/3 constitutional amendment. So I suspect that Governor Kim Reynolds is also going to be a yes on Amendment 1, but I'll let her continue to speak to that. But anyway, same press conference. She's asked about this and obviously talks about, we've taken every step to make sure that our elections are safe. We should never stop looking, blah, 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 which is great. Iowa has a great system. It goes to remind every time there's an election law bill in Iowa that aims to, we've talked about election law here before, John. It is anytime you want to clean the voter rolls, it's voter suppression. But this is what happens when you don't clean up the voter rolls.
Yeah.
When you just automatically register people. And even by the governor of New Jersey's admission, they even indicated. So what happens is you go in and get your driver's license. You can indicate whether you want to register or whether you're eligible to register. And they said, hey, I'm not eligible to register to vote. I'm not a citizen. But yet they were added. And yet they ended up voting.
And they blamed it on a glitch.
Yeah, it was a glitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You believe that?
No.
I'm just going to wonder, is it the same glitch that reports votes at 2 a.m. in places like Atlanta and Philadelphia? Is it the same glitch? It's the same, that's just the way the program works?
Well, this is, it's alarming because, and I think it gives further argument, evidence of why we need good election reforms, and that there needs to be integrity of the rolls.
Buried in here, John, is something I know you'd like to talk about, but we're not going to get to today. This was non-citizens getting driver's licenses.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, nothing to see here. That's not what we're here to talk about today. I was reminded too. I guess that my snarky comment about this. If you remember, it was early on when I joined ITR. You loved it. I went over to the University of Iowa and participated in a panel.
Yes, yeah.
And it was on. I can't remember.
It was the future of the Republican
Party,
Yeah.
and I had some far left professor from somewhere was self-styled expert in election law, and I made some snarky comment like that, and he started trying to go off on it and about how Republicans are so awful because they talk about all these boogeymen that they imagine all over the place. And I said, you know what? If you don't want us to question the system, do better.
That's right. Yeah.
Because you get crap like this, John.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, how dare Republicans think that in places like New Jersey, they need to clean up their election laws. I can't imagine. They're crazy for wondering that. That's insane. They're just a bunch of Trump MAGA nuts, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to clean up the voter rolls, John? There's nothing to see here.
Was it the old saying from the late 19th century, honest graft? It's,
I tell you what. And you know what? Maybe this was just an honest mistake, but give me a break. Let's not pretend that these blue states all get it right.
Yeah.
And one more thing, I'm also not going to pretend, well, New Jersey can do it the way they wanted. 400 people voted in the 2024 presidential election. That is the presumption here. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Okay, one more for you. I'm going to lob up one more for you. Does this make you more or less excited for a national popular vote?
Less.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Yeah,
that's the right answer.
Yeah. I'm opposed to that 100%. But this also reminds me of the left is up in arms for program integrity requirements for SNAP and those type of benefits.
No, that's a great point.
And they say that this is going to harm people, but then look at all the fraud that's uncovered in these areas, and then it's not only fleecing the taxpayer, but it's also actually hurting those who are actually needing those programs by having all this fraud in Medicaid and SNAP and all these public assistance programs.
Governor Reynolds strikes exactly the right tone when asked about this, but it's also in things like that. We've made great progress. We do it really well, but that's also not to pretend that we can't always do it a little bit better. That is exactly where any leader should want to be. I think we've got a great system in any number of these things in Iowa. We can always do better.
Yes.
I mean, the goal should be zero.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. All right, John, I got that out of my system. I had to do it. You've got a couple things you want to talk about.
Yeah, there was two recent editorials in the this is in the Chicago Tribune, which I thought were worth mentioning, and they both have to deal with tax policy. And the Tribune is not always the standard bearer of conservatism, but basically the first one was on property tax, and they were lamenting that all of Illinois' neighbors were at least having serious discussions on property tax reform. And of course, the legislature here in Iowa actually passed a property tax reform bill, which we've talked about extensively. But and neighboring states of Illinois are also doing this. And they said, the only thing we had on property tax here this session in Illinois was, how could it benefit the bears? Nothing for taxpayers. And so what was interesting, though, is they said, in terms of property tax, they said, the policy should not be directed towards winners and losers. And so, in other words, it shouldn't be, it should not benefit the bears. And they even went so far to say it should not benefit seniors. And they said everyone struggles with property tax. And so the best relief is relief for all. And what really got me interested in their editorial is they said that Illinois needs to go out and address the problem at the heart of it, which you and I have always said is government spending. And so I thought that was fantastic that the editorial just made it plain that the reason for their property tax problem, again, is just government spending. The second editorial had to do with income taxes, and they weren't necessarily endorsing a specific income tax policy, but the editorial said that, once again, all of our neighbors have been doing tax reform, including progressive Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And they said Illinois is doing the opposite. We just keep spending and we keep taxing more. And they were looking at Missouri's amendment that's coming up, and then they looked at Iowa and what we've done with our flat tax, and they said, maybe it's time for Illinois to start looking at a different route in terms of tax policy. And again, they went back to spending and just two really good editorials that are getting to the heart of the problem and basically saying, okay, our state needs to do something different.
I would like to think that this is a very small piece of an awakening, that there's a limit to more taxes and more spending, and that the laboratories of democracy, where we show whether these things work or not, are going to show that big government, expansive government benefits, bloated union contracts, whatever is ailing Illinois isn't sustainable. It doesn't work. That's the goal, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because I think there are more and more those on the left, and I don't want to say the far left, but fiscal conservatism is not only found on the right wing of the political spectrum. I know several rank-and-file Democrats that would maybe not land on the same square as us, but they understand that, some fiscal discipline, and you need to kind of stay out of, it's a bipartisan cause. But when you see, a liberal paper like that, speaking like that, it does make you wonder if at least the intelligentsia on the left are starting to wake up to this a little bit, which would be very encouraging. Yeah. Now, I think the base of the party is nowhere near getting that memo. I mean, ask regular voters in New York City who elected a, bona fide socialist, maybe communist, who wants to, take, not just tax, but take and give to others. So I'm not going to pretend that all of a sudden that, the modern Democratic Party is going to wake up and be the party of Barry Goldwater. But I think there is some movement here.
Yeah. And one thing they said that was interesting in this editorial, and it makes sense, is that they said Chicago used to be the sort of the engine that would draw people and economic activity into the state, but that's no longer the case because there's so much competitive tax structures among the states now, and there's so many lower tax states that businesses and people have been fleeing Illinois. The same thing with Minnesota because the dynamic has changed that way.
Hey. And also on top of all that, you can get soccer stadium incentives here in Iowa.
That's true. Yes,
so they got the Bears, but we can throw taxpayer money at sports teams and stadiums here in Iowa just the same.
Yep.
So you can have low taxes and handouts
for
soccer stadiums right here in Iowa.
Yeah. Yeah, so we
You gotta
could
have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, we could have a bear's incentive or something.
Well, who was it? Was it Scott Webster this year that had the bill to try and draw
Yes,
the Bears to Bettendorf?
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
Oh,
forgot about that.
yeah. There are times that we can just set the philosophy of the role of government aside and just enjoy the sport of it all.
Yeah,
That's one of them.
Yep.
All right. Kudos to Senator Scott Webster. All right, John. I agree. I think that's all really good stuff. And I appreciate how much you stay tuned into all of that. And it's not always just Minnesota. You are a student of what's going on around the country.
Yes, yeah.
So, man, I was just kidding, but you really did come to party.
Yes,
today.
yeah, yep.
So we need to get you the cream soda and the red Solo cup more often.
Yeah,
All
this is
right. Good. All right. Anything else for us today, John?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, very good.
Yep.
Well, appreciate you joining us. Again, vote yes on Amendment 1. Go to maketaxhikesharder.com or go to taxrelief.org and get all the information and help us get the word out and sit tight. And we are going to get you even more information about this going into the fall. All right. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on ITR Live.